I'm Jason Gibb, co-founder of Bread and Jam, and this is Breaking Bread. Every episode, I sit down with the key people in the food world to learn from their experiences.
Today, Pinar reveals how to turn trends into commercial reality, the high-pressure human side of buying, and what rebuilding Planet Organic taught her about what customers actually want. This is her story.
So Pinar, as a student at university, you were, from what I hear, already looking at health and wellness space. Did you always know that you wanted to be in the food world?
I didn't up until I wrote my dissertation, basically. But I was very curious to look at consumers and understand how they decide to buy something, or, you know, what was the intention of them wanting to be more healthier or ethical. But in the end, if they don't buy that product, what are the motives behind it? This is what I started researching about. And then in the end, I was very fascinated with what I found. So I decided to work in the sector. And 1 year later, back in 2011, I found myself in London in the first, I think, raw and vegan fine dining restaurant of London in that crazy environment. And this is how it all started.
So that was 2011,
Yes.
and you were already looking kind of raw and vegan stuff, which I guess wasn't very mainstream at that point.
No, it was very niche at the time. And having a fine dining restaurant is a bit crazy. But it was very, very popular. Over the weekend, we had celebrities, we had, crazy side dishes. It was a more experiential dining rather than a casual dining. And this is how I moved to products, because at the restaurant, the side dishes become very, very popular as well. And as an ops manager and with the team, we decided to set up a production kitchen so that we can manufacture these side dishes as lovely snacks so that customers can take it home as well. So this is how it all started.
And what were the kind of products that you were doing then?
At the time, it was raw food boom. So I'm talking about kale chips. I'm sure everyone at some point in their life tasted that. Raw crackers, coconut macaroons, all these healthy raw snacking stuff, which was fun.
And so you were packaging them up and selling them direct to consumers, or were you trying to then sell them to wholesalers and other stores?
So we set up a proper production kitchen, get proper certifications, which was a journey because it's very, very difficult to do mass production to raw food. And then once we start producing these products, we package them properly and then we pitch them to buyers. And we started working with the retailers, do a lot of private label for them as well, alongside with our current brand. So it was very interesting journey in that sense. And I found myself, working on new product development for a lot of health and wellness retailers and leading those projects in a kitchen rather than in a restaurant, which was very interesting. And this is how I evolved to a production side.
Right. And then, so for the next few years, you actually tried your hand at loads of different things. You did a bit of food service, you did a bit of sales and marketing, you did operations. What did that teach you, I guess, about the food and drink kind of system as a whole? What were your learnings from that?
I really enjoyed what I did in food production and creating new recipes. And once I need to leave SAF, I didn't want to go back to corporate world again. So I said, you know what, I will just, work project-based with these retailers and wholesalers, which I already had a network with.
Right.
And I decided to work on project-based freelance for quite a few years. And actually, this is how I end up at Planet Organic as well, because at the time I was consulting for the juice menu. We were working on the juice menu of Planet Organic back in 2017.
Oh, I see. So you were a kind of external company trying to develop their juice menu of drinks?
Depending on the project. For example, at the time I worked with the wholesalers where they wanted to have natural and organic product catalog. I launched a brand new catalog for them, get their organic certification and things like that. Versus with Planet Organic, it was more menu basis, and we were working on their juice menu at the time. So it really depended on what they wanted from me. But yes, that was the period where I moved from project to project, which was very fascinating because I had opportunity to experience a lot of different areas, which was very helpful. And I was still outside of corporate world.
Yeah, yeah. And I wondered about that time, if it taught you much about kind of fads and trends.
Yes. So especially during my time at the production kitchen, it was all about trends and fads and what we can come up with. And even at the time, I know it sounds crazy, but back in 2012, I remember working on some mushroom bars, which we can't even see right now in the UK. So I guess it was far ahead of the market. But working with buyers closely at the time and also understand what can be launched as a mass production, what is commerciality, really, really helped me to get through. I think right today as a buyer, because I know production side very well, that is very helpful with my conversations with the brands in terms of what can be done, what can be launched, how quickly can we do things, and whether that will be commercial. That was very, very useful at the time.
Did you learn anything about what fads and trends, though, are kind of sticky and which ones will kind of just disappear and you shouldn't really focus on?
You definitely shouldn't be too early to the market. That's one thing. And obviously for startups and small companies, you need to look out for the volume and a mass production so that you can scale up your costs, the volume, and control your cost at the same time. It's very, very important to be mindful about the commercial reality when you go through the trends. I guess also it's important to understand the UK market well. The consumers, what they want, what are the differences across different sectors. So yeah.
Cool. And it was at the end of 2017, I think, that you took the role as grocery buyer at Planet Organic. What was it about that I guess attracted you?
So I always loved Planet. At past, I also involved in some of the private label projects at Planet. So at that time, I knew Planet team. And while I was working on for the juice menu project, there was an opening in team buying, which was very, very unusual at the time. That was a maternity cover, and I said, you know what? Why don't I become a buyer? Although I had a lot of hospitality experience because of my food production experience, I got the job and I started working as a buyer at Planet, and afterwards I became permanent buyer, and I guess I never left. I'm still at Planet since then.
And so, it's an obvious question, but tell me what the buyer does.
It is a very multitasking position, I would say. So one day you might be tasting some chocolates, which might be nice or non-palatable at all. The other day you just dig into huge spreadsheets and working on strategy, or you might be working a solution for a supply chain crisis. So it is very fast-paced, and you need to be really, really multitasking. So yeah, it can be very stressful, but at the same time, I think it's very rewarding because whatever you do, all these projects come to life at shop floor on shelf, and you can see your failures and your successes on shop floor. I think which is very rewarding and motivating, especially if you are very into the product world.
And also another kind of basic question, but what does a buying team at Planet Organic look like? How many of you are there? What do you look after? What's the kind of hierarchy?
We are a very small team, I would say. We are a team of 9. In each department, we have 2 buyers. Some of us are buyers, some of us are junior buyers, reporting all to head of buying. And we also have admins supporting us. So no, it's not a crowded team. I think we are doing a fantastic job.
You are, yeah. And how many brands how many suppliers are you looking after?
At Planet Organic in grocery departments, we are looking after around 3,000 products, which makes around 200 brands.
Yeah. Wow, that's insane.
At any time.
Yeah. So they keep you busy.
Very busy, I must say.
What obviously it's a really super multitasking role, as you say. What do you think makes a good buyer?
I think first thing first is curiosity. I noticed a lot of buyers are very curious in terms of what they do, but also passion is an important part of this job. Not just towards food and drink, but also in Planet Organic, we have a very big passion towards bringing healthy, good food to communities.
Yeah.
And that's driving our motivation. And also, of course, it's a very fast-paced environment. You need to be very solution-driven. You need to be able to make decisions under stress. So there are multiple aspects, but I would say passion is the biggest driver for the job.
Amazing. And you must see so much innovation coming into you and so many new trends all the time. From that experience, what makes a product or a brand stick rather than kind of be a fad?
That's a great question, actually. So over these years, obviously, I had some failures and success stories as well. But what I learned so far is it's very important to adapt those trends to local markets and consumers.
Right.
In terms of price point, in terms of flavor, in terms of culture. This is very important.
Can you give me an example of what you mean, though?
It is very important to work with a local brand when you launch a trend. This is what I prefer.
Right.
I like approaching small startups and then feed them with the ideas and come up with a product together which would fit for the UK customer. Otherwise, you can't just copy paste the trend or import something overseas because there are a lot of risks attached to that.
Right.
And sometimes it fails very badly. I can give you an example.
Do, please, yeah.
So I think this was before pandemic back in 2018, most likely. At the time, high protein was very important. And at the cereals category, I wanted to create, some exciting bars.
Some bars.
Yes, so I imported a chickpea granola from States. At the time, it was flying at States.
Right.
And it was so tasty.
Yeah.
The brand looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And we all thought, okay, this will sell very well. And it didn't work very well because, I mean, there are lots of reasons, but I think I haven't localized it enough.
Right.
Versus afterwards, I had a short visit to Thailand to a detox center, to my ex-employers actually. And over there, I experimented low-carb keto diets. And I thought, you know what? Because people are very into high protein, I think they would be very into low carb as well. Can we experiment this in the UK? At the time, there was nothing in the UK.
This was back in 2017,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
No one knew anything about keto at the time. I came back and I approached a couple of brands to see how we can produce a keto low carb granola. And actually, it worked very well because we worked together with the brand and we managed to launch the first keto granola in the UK.
Right.
And since then, it is selling very well.
Amazing.
This shows me how important it is to localize these trends and work with brands which are in the UK rather than simply importing them. Don't get me wrong, there will be areas where it's important to import as well. And I do import products. But for big trends, I think it's very important that the brand is present here understand the consumer and they can act on it.
That's so incredibly collaborative. But I suppose for the listeners, it would be good to know, were you already working with that brand, or did you go out and look for them and they were doing a similar product and you thought, they could do this kind of keto granola?
I searched for days.
Oh, really?
Online, all, trade show, exhibitor lists. I literally searched for them at least, I would say 2-3 months to see how close we can get. Obviously, at that point, I would never find a brand who would be producing it because most of people were not aware of that trend. But what I was looking at is any manufacturers or brand owners who are trying to do anything functional in the area so that I can feed them with the idea of having a low-carb granola. It could be paleo, it could be grain-free at the time, or high protein. So something close and similar so that they would be open for the new ideas. This is how you incubate new brands and new flavors to the market. You will never know what you look for, but if you find a brand who is willing to go beyond, you can start working together and launch successful products together.
So if a brand kind of has the product that is on trend and you think consumers will like it, what about all the other stuff, the kind of the operational, the commercial reality of it? What do you look for beyond just the product, I suppose?
So we need to make sure costs are controllable from their side. Because when you launch a product as a buyer, and this is my style with all of my relationships, it needs to be win-win. I want that brand to flourish and be successful in the market. If it is something we work closely together, I might have 1 or maximum 2 months of exclusivity, just talk about it during the launch. However, I want them really to be available in the UK and flourish so that they can actually control their costs, have a profitable price and margin model, and so on. It really depends on the brand and how experienced they are in the market, because some brands have no idea what they are doing. They never manufactured anything like that before, versus some brands will have an experience of manufacturing things. So it is really, really different in terms of how you approach both of these cases. But I guess my production background really helps in that sense, because I can always give them advice on recipes or production or packaging. Yeah. So this is what we do together.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm kind of obliged to ask this, but I don't know if I'll get an answer. But what are the margin expectations at Planet Organic?
It depends per category.
Of course.
I cannot disclose that here.
But I think it's also quite important for suppliers to understand, because if you're talking about, it's got to be win-win, they got to kind of, an early stage kind of build in those margins to their business. Because it's not only your margin, it's often the wholesaler's margin
exactly, too. And they often do these conversations with the wholesaler rather than us.
Okay.
So obviously at the time of the listing, I might give them an indication, especially in terms of setting up the recommended retail price right for the market to make sure they have enough margins for everyone. But at the end of the day, I can't really step in for it, retail prices as well. So that's a conversation they would make with the wholesaler. But if they need any support, of course, we would give that. Each category has a completely different dynamic. But I would say at Planet Organic, we are in line with the market.
Okay. That's what you'll say to me.
That's a very political answer.
Isn't it?
That's true.
Okay, cool. And so do you only take suppliers through wholesalers then? Or can they supply you directly?
In grocery, I prefer working through wholesalers.
Okay.
But in other departments at Planet Organic, for example, Health and Body Care, they buy a lot of direct supply as well. So it really depends. Yeah. Obviously, this is case by case. Yep. But at the time of a listing, because we have very good relationship with different types of wholesalers, we can always advise the brand the best way to the market. So that's not a problem indeed.
And sorry, just remind me, what does grocery cover, your area?
So when we say grocery, it's the entire food and drink, and there is a bit of non-food, which are detergents, household, anything ambient covers under grocery, from baby food to pasta, antipasti, snacking, chocolate, whatever you name it. It's a very large area.
It's not frozen, it's not fresh.
No,
it's
all ambient.
Yeah,
all
cool.
ambient. And I must say, because of the movement in bakery and chilled, although some products are ambient, they might have very short shelf life, such as 10, 15 days. We would still consider these products under fresh, although they are ambient. Same with the drinks. They might stay as at ambient temperature, but because they are merchandised in chillers, they would be fresh products.
And so what does, if you do find a kind of a product that you like, what does a listing look like for a new supplier? Like how many stores? Is there a trial period?
We usually don't have any trial periods, and once we list something, it's available in all of our stores and the website immediately. And yes, we don't have any, pilot projects or sale or return. It's very straightforward. However, of course, we would continue monitoring the, sales performance throughout the year. I would say typically I would, carefully monitor for the first 6 months and see how things go. And I would definitely give any brand at least a year, depending on the brand, because unfortunately some brands at past thought that the products will sell by themselves. That never happens, especially there are a lot of competitive categories such as snacking or chocolate where you got a listing. The competition is very high, which means you really need to support your brand and be at shop floor with tasting such sessions, engaging with the customer, have a appropriate promotional plan. Never promote a lot, but never promote a light. So there are fine balances, but if you just leave it as it is, it's not going to sell by itself.
It's not going to work. Yeah. And give me a bit more kind of detail about what a promotional plan might look like, or how often do you have to sample? Is it like one store per week, or what roughly guidelines would be a good launch?
During the product launch, I think a 360 approach is very, very important during the product launch, especially if you are launching something very niche to the market or the competition is very high, like snacking, for example. I would support it with a price promotion. Straight away, so that we encourage customer to try, as long as the brand is at shop floor, doing lots of samplings and tasting sessions and really communicating with the customer what's special about this brand. And then the customer will have opportunity to try different flavors and really engage with the brand and understand really the story and why we listed that brand. There is no one formula fits for all, I would say. But I think overall, I think minimum 2 or 3 times per year promotions are a good level of any, fast-paced impulse product category. Also, in terms of tasting sessions, they need to heavily be, tasting at shop floor at the beginning of the launch, and then they can decide. That depends on the product, seasonality, and all sorts of things.
But do you want, say, it's my product, do you want me to be in there every day for a week kind of thing?
No, you don't need to exaggerate that. And also we need to give space to other brands as well. But you will understand how many times you need to be at shop floor. I would say definitely maybe for the first time for the month during the campaign, twice per every store would be very helpful.
Yeah, cool. And then what happens if the brand isn't doing well? If the product isn't how do you communicate that to them?
That is, I mean, at the beginning of my career, that was a very tricky conversation.
Yeah.
Because imagine you put a lot of time and effort with these brands, and then after a range review, you might need to shrink the range or delist them altogether. Having said that, that would never be a surprise for any of my brands. Before it comes to that
Got
stage,
you.
I would always step in,
Yeah.
ask for more promotions or, I don't know, sampling. I would always provide, sales data, any decision in terms of delists or category shrinks that would be attached to a commercial data. And they would also see and understand where they are. And it would never be a surprise. But at the end of the day, sometimes we work very hard together and it just doesn't work. So that's the reality. But majority of them do work if they engage with the customers and really like what they do and invest on it.
Can you remember the first brand that you kind of delisted?
Yes, I'm not going to name the brand, it was okay. But this was many, many years ago. I think it was, again, back in 2018, I had to delist a brand, which I really love, and we still work together. So I didn't know how to give, how to give that, bad news in a sense. And it took me 2 days to draft my email. I was very upset about it, but at the end of the day, it wasn't performing well. And in the end, I decided, okay, I will send it on a Friday afternoon, and then we'll see how it goes. But it turns out they really understand. This is what I learned as well. When these decisions are commercial, and the brand can clearly see where they need to be and how they are performing. Usually they are not even surprised, and they are cooler than buyers in terms of, oh, I know, I was seeing the sales, don't worry, type of conversation, rather than, oh, why did you delist us? Because they know it's coming. And at that period, often also they might be leaving it as it is and, stop fighting for those products.
It's really good that you appreciate, though, the impact that could have. That's very good to hear. So in 2018, Planet Organic was bought by a private equity firm, and in the spring of 2023, it went into administration. I think the troubles were kind of exacerbated by COVID and high overheads and low footfall and things like that a lot of people experienced. But Renee Elliott, the founder, bought it back and saved lots of jobs. I think a few stores were closed, but basically kind of rescued it. What was your experience of that period?
It was a very hard period. And as a team, we worked very, very hard. As team buying and other departments, we worked very hard because what we experienced, both from brands and from industry, everyone was very upset. And later on, everyone was very scared that Planet Organic might be gone.
Yeah.
We all worked very hard together and make sure that didn't happen. And we came back stronger than ever. Which is very exciting, but that wasn't easy. That required a lot of hard work at the backstage as a team, which was very important for us.
What did it involve? What was it? Cutting out lines that weren't working, closing down stores that weren't working? So
as a company, we revisited our standards and upgraded our standards to make sure that reflects the company mission and vision. To give you an example, in food and drink, for example, before administration, we were around 65% organic. Now we are more than 80% organic. Right. And we are always looking for organic, healthy and natural products in line with our, upgraded standards. We are still working on our standards. And immediately we see the commercial effect of this increase. Now the company is doing very, very well and thriving, and we are very profitable.
So that kind of brings your journey kind of almost up to date in telling your story. And as you say, Planet Organic's flourishing. It's very profitable. You double down on your organic proposition. So I kind of want to dive a little bit more into the buying role, so kind of entrepreneurs listening can understand more about how you work with emerging brands. So my first question is, like, nowadays, where do you look for new products? Is it do you wait for them to come to you, or do you actively go out and look for them?
Both, actually. I mean, trends and new products can come in many places. It could be social media. You look abroad market, understand what's going on. At the same time, I really enjoy, networking events in the UK, summits and, mini pitching events versus trade shows. I mean, don't get me wrong. I really love trade shows. But it's not an area where, you look for new trends and new products, but you catch up on what is already available in the market. And the cost side of the things are very high, which means that a lot of startups and small brands won't afford to be on a trade show. So although I love visiting trade shows for different purposes, for new products, I prefer smaller pitching sessions.
Feel free to mention bread and jam.
Bread and jam is one of them. Yes, we quite enjoy.
Good. So if they're kind of inbound kind of inquiries, how do you like to be approached?
I would say straight to the point, because I receive a lot of pitching decks, which are copy-paste. Sometimes even account managers forget to remove the retailer name, the previous retailer name. So it's really, really copy-paste information, which is not really helpful. And every retailer are different as well.
So we'll say kind of Whole Foods on the top. Yes. For the Whole Foods buyer.
Selfridges or something. So I would say, I would prefer less information, to the point, and more straightforward, highlighting unique selling points and why I should list that product, apart from taste. Because taste is very important, don't get me wrong, but it helps with building repeat purchases. It's not a reason to launch a product, and by default, we expect it to taste good. My product tastes the best in the market is not a unique selling point. So that brand needs to be very clear, straightforward, and know what they're doing in that category and highlight us why I should list them. Then that would caught my eye.
And would it make a difference if they've got, because I think a lot of early stage brands are a bit confused about what their main USPs are. Would you prefer to see kind of 3 reasons or 10 reasons?
I think 3 is better over 10, I would say. And, I don't necessarily expect keywords or anything. If they tell me their story and why they come up with that product, that would tell me their unique selling point. And, often they see a gap in the market or a need of launching a product. So if they communicate that well, as a buyer, I'm happy to, lead them to understand what their unique selling points are. Often brands are very experienced nowadays, so they know where they are standing at when they approach us. But of course, if they start from the very beginning, I'm happy to lead them if we see any potential.
So you often like them to tell their kind of founder story, and through that you can work out the problem that they're trying to solve, and therefore what they're addressing in the market. I'm assuming by what you're saying, you like an inbound email, do you? Or is it LinkedIn, or is it kind of samples sent to your office?
I lost the control of my LinkedIn. I will be honest with you. The inbox is floating as much as my emails. So I think they can check our website, for example, and there's a buying email on the website, and they can send an email to that address, which will be directed to the right buyer. Because often, unfortunately, I receive a lot of irrelevant pitches, which are either not my category or do not comply with our standards and so on. So I think they can get a better response if they reach out to the generic email address so that they can be, forwarded to the right buyer.
Yep.
And they can get a response much quicker.
Yeah.
But
so there is someone genuinely monitoring that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you think about that, I mean, we receive sometimes hundreds of olive oil, let's say, pitches.
Yeah.
They all are alike. And if I'm not, doing a category range review for olive oils, maybe it would be a year until I look for a new brand because it is a very slow-paced category. It's literally one in, one out. Versus a snacking brand, there are more chances of getting, an answer as quick as possible. Having said that, I think at Planet Organic, our response rates are slightly higher than the industry. If you approach any multiples or supermarkets, to be able to get a listing, you need to wait 18 months sometimes. Versus if we really see a potential, I might list a product within 2 to 3 months if I really wanted to. So we have some opportunities to be able to act on it fast. Doesn't mean, of course, this is our lead time. Don't get me wrong. No. But if we really see something new, innovative in the market, of course, I want to be first in the market to launch that product. So I'll do everything I can to launch it as quick as possible.
Hey, I just want to pause here for a moment, because one of the biggest reasons why startups fail is because they don't manage their finances well when they get listed, whether it's cash flow, commercials, or cost of goods. I always say that right from the start, you need serious financial expertise on your team. Our sponsors, Harmonic Finance, specialize in exactly this, finding finance and accounting talent for startups and scale-ups like yours. So whether it's a permanent CFO or fractional support to get ready for scale, they understand the unique challenges of emerging brands. Check them out at harmonicfinance.com.
So that kind of leads me on to one of the biggest gripes of a lot of young brands is this kind of thing about buyers ghosting them. You kind of send an email to the buyer or to the kind of generic email address. You might get a response, you might get no response, and you kind of don't know if it's going to the right person or anyone's reading it at all. What's your advice to brands that's happening to, who feel ghosted?
I mean, they shouldn't feel that. That's not our intention, I must admit. If you think about if you think about my inbox and the number of emails I receive, forget about the internal conversations. If I go on a holiday for, let's say, 2 weeks, and once I come back, minimum I have 1,000 of emails waiting. That could be easily 1,500, maybe more, depending on the season. And it is literally impossible to read them and acknowledge them one by one. But what I do is, if it is something which we can start a conversation immediately, I acknowledge and say, I'll come back to you within 6 weeks.
Right.
Please don't send any samples at this stage, because that's also important. I don't want to disappoint brands before we review the product, because then what happens is they send samples and expect a positive outcome from which, something which might not necessarily comply with standards. I don't want to waste their resources. So I think it's very important not to send unsolicited samples.
Right.
My typical listing process is, once we start the initial conversation, I might ask further questions to the brand about the product, usually ingredients and nutritionals. I always review that. An idea of, recommended retail prices. And then we go back to them if we need, samples. And then probably we will have a face-to-face meeting to discuss about the brand, what they are looking for, what we are looking for, and whether we can work together, and the conversation moves from there. We never decide on a listing from an email, I'll be honest with you.
Sure.
That's more like a networking opportunity and see what's out there. Having said that, of course, I'm reading every single email, even if
You are?
Yes, I am.
Wow.
Because sometimes there are so important, products or information. I might not necessarily reply them all, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of irrelevant emails, unfortunately, like things like I don't look after. For example, I receive emails from cosmetic brands,
Yeah.
which I'm a food buyer. I'm sure they know. I think they hope that I would forward that to the colleague.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you might receive an email from the other side of the world trying to sell you containers of organic, walnuts,
Right.
which is again irrelevant. That's not what I do. So among all these emails, to be able to find the right information is so difficult. So I suggest all brands to be, straightforward, summarize as much as possible.
Be succinct, kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And bespoke emails, because one retailer might have different angles than Planet Organic. So if they can highlight why that product can sell at Planet Organic, that would be super helpful. And that would catch my eye in that crowded, busy inbox.
Yeah. And so if I'm a new, kombucha brand and I'm emailing you and I don't hear anything, I'm an ambient kombucha. Do you think it's a good idea for me to follow up like a month later with a bit of news, and then another month later with a bit more news, like I've won a Great Taste Award, or I've had this press coverage, even though it's a one-way conversation? Do you think it's a good idea for brands to kind of keep you up to date?
Yes,
like that?
Yes, definitely. That depends on the frequency. I'll give you an example. Again, I think this was a couple of years ago. One of the account managers, I think he was very ambitious, I must admit.
Pushy.
And what happened is, it took me for a while to recognize that actually he is sending emails with the same intervals at the same time. Like every other 3 days at 10 a.m. he was sending me emails. And at the time I checked my inbox, and in a month I had 30 emails, which were all sent at the same time.
Yeah.
And I noticed, probably he put the alarm on and emailing me constantly, which is not very helpful. And I already told him we can't review the product because it's not up to our standards. At that point, I was very angry, actually, because that becomes something else. It's almost like a harassment. If someone keeps emailing you, despite you say no, and I checked our conversations, I was very nice at the beginning. I ended up calling the company founder, and I told him, look, it's great that you have ambitious account managers, but I think you should monitor what they are doing. This is what he has been doing to me over a month. And he was surprised, to be honest.
Really?
He was so apologetic. And so that could happen. But yes, with, acceptable intervals, if we didn't say no, and often we explain the reason behind it. If we say no, let's say we are very strict on our standards for animal-derived ingredients. If a product has a milk or egg, which is non-organic in the product, it could be the best product in the world, but I can't list it. And if I explain it to the brand, if they still continue to email me for the same product, that's not working.
No, that's not
but
good.
overall, I think as team, we are very approachable, and we try to be as nice as possible.
Are there any other kind of small things that suppliers should be considerate of in terms of the way buyers work, like certain days of the week they should reach out to you, or anything like that? Or ranging windows, or?
It really depends. It really depends on the product, and range reviews can also vary from buyer to buyer. If something is new, I want to know about it as soon as possible.
Right.
I wouldn't wait for a range review.
Yeah. So are there any brands that you've worked with who kind of stand out in the way that they've launched and grown sales in Planet Organic? Are there any brilliant case studies that you can kind of share how they why they were so good?
I think this will resonate with the example I gave earlier. We launched Keto Hana with Hana together. Keto Hana.
Right.
That was the first keto granola in the UK, and they are still selling very well as a low carb cereal brand.
And why was that so good? What did they do that kind of?
They were the first low carb granola in the category. If you look at cereals, breakfast cereals category, they are often very high in sugar.
Yeah.
And even if we, monitor the sugar levels and moderate the category overall, still I think overall granola are very indulgent, and they were the first brand to give a low sugar, low carb angle to the category, which was new for UK market, and it still sells well.
But are there any examples of not just the kind of the product being innovative, but the way that they've activated it, or the way that they've driven it, or invested in Planet Organic, or given you exclusivity? Is there any great examples of that?
No
one's done it perfectly yet. Damn it.
No, not that. Let's cut here.
Okay.
I don't feel, I'm not sure whether it's a good thing that I would give any brand names.
Got you.
Fine. I'm not sure.
You don't want to shout out anyone. That's fine.
Yeah.
So what role do you see Planet Organic playing in terms of the journey of an emerging brand or supplier? Is it kind of a stepping stone to bigger retail, or where do you think it comes in the journey? We
are the first certified organic retailer in the UK market. We are not as big as a multiples supermarkets, but I think our impact for natural and organic market in the UK is inevitable. And we are leading the market in terms of innovation in many cases. So I think that's a big threshold for a brand when they got listed. This is when they get a lot of attention in the market for larger opportunities as well. So I would say it is important.
So do you kind of expect them to go on to larger retails, or do you want them to kind of stay with you forever?
Not forever. So for independent market, it is fine. Obviously, as long as they have a good pricing strategy, and they taught it well, of course they can go to supermarket. A lot of supermarkets have accelerator programs and newness programs nowadays, especially for organic. I expect them to list more and more organic products, especially this year. But as long as the brand has a good plan, I don't mind. But obviously, if this is something we created together, then I would expect a couple of months of exclusivity, but not more than that. I would rather them to flourish in the UK market and grow.
What trends and innovation are you kind of excited about and looking at in terms of Planet Organic at the moment?
Overall, I mean, I can talk about grocery. In 2026, I'm expecting an exciting movement from clean eating to more longevity and, biohacking space.
Right.
Meaning that I think we will see a lot of functionality in everyday food, in simple formulations, which still tastes good, but some functionality attached to that. Not being too niche, but available in different formats in your cupboard. Either it's a cereal or a hot drink. We might see some functional ingredients such as, lion's mane, ashwagandha, turmeric. These type of key ingredients would be important. But I think more important this year, which would be great for us, I expect a big movement on organic and regenerative organic, because customers are demanding more and more transparency and high quality food. So I think it's going to be a great year for organic, and we already started experimenting it in our upgraded standards, as I mentioned previously. Now we have more than 80% organic in food and drink selection, which was welcomed very well up with our customers. In addition to that, I think customers would expect more from brands. Like when you eat something, that needs to do something good for you. Is it good for your mental health? Is it good for your brain health? It can capture a lot of areas. Is it good for your gut?
Right.
And these shouldn't be very complicated recipes. It should still resonate with the end customer without confusing them. As a result, I think for gut health, for example, I expect to see a lot of activated, sprouted, fermented ingredients. It could be in cereals, it could be in pasta.
Right.
I think also we will start seeing a lot of savory snacking, because typically snacking category is driven by sweet, savory. Because of these moments, I expect some MPD coming in savory, because we will start seeing more nuts and seeds and these activated ingredients being used, which can be linked to, brain health or gut health. Other than that, I think low carb, low sugar still be important. But we will see keto being evolved into grain-free format, which captures more customers. It will be interesting to follow monk fruit in the UK, which monk fruit.
Right.
It was a novel food, and there are some forms now which can be used.
Okay. So it's only been recently allowed as an ingredient.
Exactly. So it would be interesting to watch out whether that would be picked up. Other than that, I think overall flavors would be important. I will see a lot of umami flavors, miso, black garlic, all fermented, pickled flavors, and Asian infusions, Korean cuisine. These would be interesting to watch out. What I would say is, I think function this year will meet with flavor.
Right.
And wellness will come into everyday life with these simple additional, products in our cupboards in everyday use.
Yeah. I see a lot of functional stuff coming in, but often it's not really clear what function is. They're trying to kind of hit so many different things. I guess it's being clear about what it's focused on as well.
Yes, I think it's very important to make sure they are clear about what they are doing, and they have a very strong positioning in the category. Because that happens with the packaging quite often. You pick up a product and the front label has multiple claims, like endless claims, and you notice, is this a gluten-free product, or is it vegan, or is it low carb? Oh, there is fiber in this, and so on. So I think it's very important to understand what they are doing and which claims are really relevant with the category. Sometimes less is more. I really love this approach. I think once they know their position and the gap in the category and whom they are competing with, they should design that product accordingly. To keep in mind, a customer needs to understand that product and the packaging, because sometimes it's so complicated. Even as a buyer, I need to ask so many questions. So it needs to be simple.
Yeah. Pinar, that's amazing insight, really valuable. Really appreciate your time, taking the time out from your incredibly busy schedule.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
That was fun for me as well. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you very much.